Slow. Okay, we're live. It says right there, you are live. Welcome to Mile High Recovery Chat. I'm here with Andrew Wainwright, founder of AiRHealth in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Hi, Bryce. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me back. Week 3.
You're welcome. Yeah, we've been discussing, treatment, the continuum of care, how you get well, how you get sober, how you keep the disease of addiction in remission, and your experience around that. And, that's it. I've known Andrew for a long time. I'm not going to say the number of years this time because I said I'd stop doing that. So here we are. So we left off last time. What were we talking about?
Well, I think you capped it off. I think we've covered a lot of the spectrum of, this industry, right? From carrier to provider and how the money moves and, what's best for families. But if it's okay with you, I get a couple questions. I thought we could invert this for a minute because it's super nice. You've had me on for 3 weeks straight and, you keep saying that you think that I have important stuff to say, but here's what I'm wondering, right? You put on this wonderful video cast that's seen by thousands of people, hopefully, who are tuning in. And I'm just wondering why, right? Like, why is this important to you? Like, why is it important for you to have me on? Not just because I'm your buddy and you know me, but like, why are these topics important? And I don't think it's just because you own a treatment center and you want to make money, right? We're not looking for spiffs here. I mean, I'm just really interested. Like, why is this a big deal for you?
Well, as far as making money, I like making money, right? But this isn't the best way to make money. There's probably maybe better ways to make money. I have my real estate license too. So when I was 2 years sober, I went through like a crisis, like I had like another bottom, like an emotional bottom. And I came out of it wanting to help people. So this all has to do with my sobriety, as well as, my career. And I didn't go to treatment. I didn't go to a treatment center. I take that back. I did go to treatment. I went to outpatient treatment and I ended up at like a mental hospital and went to a lot of AA meetings, a lot of 12-step meetings. And so my recovery was 12-step, based. And so, and part of that is carrying the message, the 12th step, right? So this is my 12th step. How can I carry the message? How can I, help people and be of service to my fellow man and woman, as it were? And so the whole time I've been getting sober, I would always periodically check in with you and you'd give me good advice. You said, the first thing you said was, wait till you get a year sober, dude. Just cool your jets, right? Calm down. And that was good advice because who knows, right? And so I made it to a year, then I made it past 2 years. And then I reached out to you and I said, I'm looking. When I saw you where were we on that retreat that you had? What town was that? Telluride. I was so depressed, man. And I was like as low as I've ever been in sobriety on that trip. And I was like searching for something, right? And so I came out of it and I said, I want to open a sober house. And you said, one of my best friends in St. Paul is Chris Edrington of St. Paul Sober Living. He owns 12 sober houses, right? Or whatever it was, 14. So I came up there, he showed me the whole thing. And I opened a sober house, but all I knew was my recovery and the 12th, going to meetings and all that stuff. And so I had a lot to learn, I'm happy that I came from that sober living place instead of from like the insurance-based, let's do this thing. Because I think that's where the real magic is. It's sober living. That's where you reintegrate into society. That's where you struggle. That's where you make those real connections with people. And, but I got frustrated. So I got frustrated when people would come to me and they'd stay for a few months or longer, and then move out and then relapse immediately. And I didn't get it. They're working the steps, they're going to meetings, they're doing the deal. And so, but I didn't question my purpose. I just continued to do, what's my purpose, which, as Edrington said, was set it up and you just hope they find their own magic the way that you found yours, right? That's like one of his things. And so we just kept trying, but it was kind of like, I ended up going to Al-Anon, dude, because I got so frustrated with these alcoholics and drug addicts not getting it. And I don't know, I was like a few years into that, and I said, I'm struggling. And you said, well, why don't you talk to my friend Andy Thomas? He's got an IOP. Another brilliant idea from my buddy Andrew Wainwright. And I ended up opening an IOP. And so outpatient treatment combined with like really good quality sober living, people started to get better. And I realized that I'd kind of been doing a disservice to certain people because they're, you know, we have clinical needs. Like I went to outpatient treatment and I got outside therapy. So your whole spiel, the whole spiel of extended treatment, of getting people to a year, no matter how you got to do that, you got to hold on to for as long as possible. So we've morphed our whole program into an extended care program. We've combined PHP and IOP with structured sober living, and people are getting well. And so I believe in what you're preaching, and I kind of thought it'd be cool to have you on so that maybe other people could, I don't know, go through the process that I went through as you tell it. And so what I've noticed is that when people come in and they're at a higher level of care, like PHP, which is 30 hours a week, and the PHP and IOP are really just insurance codes for the amount of hours you get clinical services at a treatment center. But when someone comes in at that high level of care and we've got them 5 days a week or more, and then they're spending the night and living in a sober living, and then they drop down to, you know, 9 hours a week of clinical care, and they have a therapist the whole time, and we have a psych NP to monitor their meds, right? And so when they step down and then they get a part-time job, when they step down like that at those levels slowly and the way they're supposed to, they get better because they have support. They get out of trouble with the police. We help them with their families, right? And their relationships. And then they have sober friends, and they're playing softball in our sober living program, and they're doing all this stuff, and they got meetings and they got people. Even if they're just sitting around talking shit about the other people in the program, they're part of the program. Like they're doing it. And I've noticed that when we step them down like that, by the end they're just in sober living. I don't even see them except just like, you know, hanging around. And that's the way, I believe that's the way this disease should be treated. I believe that's the way that addiction and mental health are treated. And I know in our society we think 30 days of rehab, boom, you're good to go. I know for myself that any kind of, you know, trauma or whatever I had, or just mixed up feelings from early childhood, I wasn't going to unpack in 30 days. I was crazy at 30 days. I was, because I was a late stage alcoholic. My liver enzymes were still super elevated. I was depressed. I was anxious. And so, but when you step them down over the course of a year or longer, they really can unpack it slowly with a therapist, and it's just like really beneficial. That okay.
Tell me this, right? I get it, right? This is you. You had a first part of your life where you drank a lot, you got sober, and there's the second part, and then there's this part where there's like the business, and there's the evolution, right, from an immature to a mature business where you're beginning to understand how it works, and the product of this business is folks that are coming out the other side that are going to stay well, right? You're not just trying to turn beds or turn chairs, right? The goal is how do we create product, people, how do we change lives, and how do we measure that? So when you talk about it, like you are recognizing that people are staying well, like give me an example, like tell me a story. What does that look like? Like if young Andrew W comes and I'm just, you know, at your IOP and I only stay for 30 days or 45 days, and then I go and I'm back out, you know, in the hood ski on the corner doing my thing. That's, you know, you can watch any movie on recovery and see that story, right? But what does it look different if I do the deal? Like tell me what that looks like.
Because so like when people like, I mean, obviously I can't name names because they have rights and stuff, right? But there's just like dozens of people that have come, and we all as staff are like worried, like, I don't think that guy's going to make it or whatever, but they do. And they stay and they struggle. And like I said, they make friends. And some of them have like, mental health issues and they stabilize on their meds. And I believe as they stay sober, your body sort of return to like a state of normalcy. Like, you just tweak all the chemicals and the dopamine and the serotonin and whatever by doing drugs. It takes a while for it to come back. So it looks like somebody comes in, and I'm not trying to be a wise ass, but someone comes in, they're crazy. Yeah. And they think, I don't need to be here. I'm the kind of person that'll be fine after a little while. And then they reach a point where they're like scared to leave. And that's usually around 3 months, which is about at the end of our program. And that's a good place to be. They're scared to leave and go out. So they don't, they stay. And then they get a part-time job and then they hold that job and that builds like self-esteem, right? Because when you come in, the only thing that's, fun is drinking and doing drugs. Yeah. And so they turn into productive members of society. They have quality friendships and quality relationships. And like, that's the good stuff in life, right? Is, what do you say? Things to do and people to do it with, right? And they get that, and they get this like emotional sobriety. They can control their impulses, and they're not making terrible decisions all the time or at all. And you get people like, I still have people like I'll call you. I'm like, what do you think about this? What should I do about this? And you'll be like, good idea, or that's terrible idea. Let's talk about that, right? And I think that's just kind of what it's all about. I don't think it's about finding a cure or figuring it out. It's about having some sort of a quality life. And I think that it's just what you're preaching. You got to hold on to us, hold on to people, save us from ourselves. We're saving them from themselves, but we're also giving them a life, whether that's friends or a quality job or going back to school or discovering who you are as a sober person, well-intentioned, able to execute, to do things, travel, and have those quality relationships. And so it looks like a crazy person to a happy person. That's literally what it looks like.
So, it's funny, like using that word. So I've been in lots of therapy. And so I would go into the therapist's office and I'd be like, feeling really crazy. And she'd be like, hey, you can't use that word. Right?
I know, you can't.
Do you want me to, express a better way to help me understand how I was feeling? But there's some value to that, right? So I remember when I was in the halfway house, and we were in group, and there was a rule in our small group that came from the halfway house that if you wanted to spend more than like $50, you had to go to the group and ask permission, right? Because left unchecked, everybody in the group's going to get like a full back tattoo. They're going to buy a new Corvette. They're going to, I'm 10 days sober, and those are the things that I need that are going to make a difference, right? I'm going to get, I'm going to get pieces of my body. I'm going to do anything to not feel the way I feel, right? So you figure maybe $50 was less. But the word crazy is funny. So you know what my favorite movie about the disease of addiction is? So I'll tell you, my favorite movie about the disease of addiction is The Exorcist. Have you seen the original Exorcist?
Yeah.
Right? So it's supposed to be about the devil and all these things. But here's what that movie's about. Like, if you sit down and watch it, there's this mother who has this nice young daughter who's a lovely child and is polite and kind, who turns and becomes really, really sick. And then she goes to lots of doctors and she asks for help, and the doctors can't fix the child, and she gets worse. And then as she gets worse, she becomes less and less like herself. She turns into effectively an animal, right? And then she's sick for a long time until somebody who speaks that language, right, and who's unimpressed by the things that effectively the disease is putting out there comes in and goes, basically, is that all you got? And then that's where the tide turns, right? That's where somebody who understands the nature of the disease begins to be able to fight it back. And at the end of the movie, where it's a happy ending. There's stasis, that the mother gets her child back, right? Which is the great dream. And we throw that word around a lot, but people that have been using, I don't care if you're smoking pot behind the gym and you start acting out and, smashing up the house at home, or if you've been owning your own bar and drinking for 20 years, or smoking crack, or whatever your deal is, it makes us crazy. It makes us animals, right? It's a very, it is a disease unlike others in that, if you fall down and break your leg and your bone is sticking through the skin, you're aware and I'm aware that you have a serious problem, needs to, go to the doctor to get stitched up. But when you're acting like a crazy person, like an animal, you don't recognize it, right? And that's what's so challenging for families. So answer me this, right? So tomorrow, Mrs. Andrew W.'s mom is going to call you and is going to ask you, what should she do about, little Andy, who's been acting poorly, right? And behaving poorly out in Washington, D.C. What's the answer, right? Because before you used to tell her one thing, and what are you going to tell her tomorrow?
Well, the reason I use the word crazy is because I am not a therapist. I am not a clinical person. I'm a sober man and an entrepreneur who now owns a business, right? So I try not to tell them. I try to prepare them. I try to leave them with the feeling that, like, we got your kid. Send us your kid. We got it. We know how to handle it. Meaning me and my people, not me, Bryce, but me and my clinical director, me and my program director, and the awesome therapists that we have, and the great house managers. Like, we got badasses that work for Mile High. We got your kid, but you got to trust us, which means when they call you a week and they say it's terrible here, don't listen to them. When they call you after 3 weeks and say, I need a car, don't give them a car. Don't give them money. Don't give them cards. We'll let you know when it's time for them to have cash and a car. Because, and you had this conversation with your parents, the financial conversation, right? Where the nature of your father's.
Yeah. So I was out in the world. I needed to get an apartment, right? I was all, it was probably 6 months sober and I was all grown up. And, so I called up my father, and he was a good divorced dad. So he was always good for putting cash in the bank account, right, to assuage whatever, guilt he had about that situation. So I called him up and I said, I need first month's rent. I need deposit. I have some needs. I need you to kick in. So there's this long pause. And my dad, he flew out to visit me when I was in drug and alcohol treatment, to check on me, to make sure I was alive, to touch me and give me a hug. He didn't stay for the family program because that was not his gig, right? This was not his journey. But he did want to make sure I was alive. But he was not an Al-Anon guy, right? So I have no idea where he picked any of this up. Some are, I don't know whether you're at a fortune cookie or something, but like something got into this man. So I'm on the phone asking for the money. And there's a long pause. And he goes, Andrew, today is the day we change the nature of our financial relationship. And I tell you, man, I have not in my entire life have I ever heard him say something like that. But, it was wonderful, right? And that was just a cosmic step for me to grow up as a 26-year-old, wannabe adult, that I needed to figure out how to do this on my own, and so let me ask this. If these parents that call, what would happen for like the hundreds 22-year-olds that are going to come through your program if all the parents did what Bryce said and the clinicians?
Not everybody's going to get well, but they'll see the other side. The parents will get better, in my opinion. And the nature of their relationship will change. And the disease can't thrive, in my opinion, if the parents get well. And I can't fix everybody. Like, I can't fix anybody, right? That's not the 12th step. I carry the message. But people will get better, and more people will get better than, our average client has been to residential treatment 5 times. That's too many times, right? So for the same price, we will do it for a year. We'll treat your child, your loved one. I shouldn't say child because these are young adults, for a whole year. And people will get better. They will get better. And their relationships will change. They'll get better, right? And the question is always like, well, when should I pay for their rent? Never. Never. They're grown-ups. We were joking about it today. Like, there are 26-year-olds in Afghanistan that are like sergeants with like leading troops, pulling their buddy across a battlefield with their leg like wounded, right? And these kids can't figure out how to get a part-time job, right? And it's not their fault.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not a therapist, so like sometimes I'm not sensitive the way I say things, But my father wasn't going to buy me an apartment or rent me an apartment when I was 26. I could go home and like regroup, but he wasn't going to pay for my apartment, especially, if I'm on drugs or whatever. So I don't know. Your question was, what would happen? More people would get better. That's what I honestly believe. I believe that if the person wants to get better and the family does what we say, we got it, man. I think that like 99% of those people are going to get well. And by get well, I don't mean abstinent. I'd like it, right? That's ideal, but at least have a better life and not like overdose on drugs today.
I think there's this misunderstanding, right? This fantasy that Bryce and Andrew, they got lucky, or they wandered in some pixie dust somewhere, or a whole bunch of other people had to die so that they could live, or some story that we tell ourselves about how one person makes it and the other doesn't. And it's built around this idea, which is entirely false, that we cannot manufacture sobriety, right? That sobriety somehow is like God-given, and you have to walk through the desert for 40 days and just do all of these things, right? So whether it's you're going to go to the 12 steps and work the steps, or go to church, or there's lots of ways to do this thing. But that somehow at the end result, it's you just put out the effort and then someone else waves a magic wand. And I think that's a giant fiction, right? So what I believe about you and your program, just let's call it, Acme treatment, like any treatment program in the United States, you can absolutely positively manufacture sobriety, right? You can increase rates of people coming out of there that will be better, that will be in remission, that will stay in remission if we put the right pieces of the puzzle together in the right order, and then tell the families you need to do it in this order, right? And if you don't mix the batter and then add the water and then, add the, eggs, you're not going to get cookies the way that you want them, right? There's a reason the recipe is what it is. Bake for 18 minutes at 375. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the result. And this fiction is that there are many ways to get there, and there are not, right? If you want actually to cook chocolate chip cookies, it's fairly straightforward about, the ingredients and, the order of operations there to get, a fairly generic desired result, which makes most people happy. I like chocolate chip cookies.
Me too.
So it just drives me nuts, and I love magic, right? I'm not a disbeliever in magic. I believe that magic walks the earth and it's a part of our daily lives. However, when it comes to sobriety, I think that's a medical outcome that can absolutely positively be manufactured.
Right. And that's why you're here, right? Because I believe in magic. I believe in miracles. I don't know how to manufacture that in another person. But we talked last week about the pilots program. You can absolutely recreate that. You can drug test somebody for a long period of time. You can provide aftercare and groups and therapy for a long period of time. And that's shown to work.
Yeah, 92% of 100% is 92%. It's just good, right? I mean, we're all looking for the vaccine today, and everyone agrees that 92, 94% for the Moderna is unbelievable, right? I'll take that any day of the week. And if we could move the numbers for this illness, here's the thing, not if we could, we can, right? The tools exist today. We don't have to go manufacture anything. We don't have to borrow anything. We don't have to invent anything. All the tools are extant today to drive that type of outcome in the general population, not just for those that can afford it, right? So the triple aim of healthcare is we want to get more people, more better, at a more reasonable cost. And it's absolutely 100% within our scope today. And that's what maybe drives me the most nuts, is especially watching families fall back and, use old technology. It's like, why would you go use a manila folder when you could use, let's just say a 3-ring binder, right? If not, the internet or, Microsoft Azure, right? I mean, if you really want to get fancy today. But we're seeing a lot of manila folders still get pushed around, and people wondering why, it's not getting the effect they want when they're trying to organize their documents.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, when the mom's on the phone and her kid's in pain, I believe what she wants is her son a year down the road to go, Mama, I love you. And I got it from here. I got it from here, right? I think that's what they want. They might not know that's what they want, but I think that's what they want. And I think you're right. If they just do what people like you say, they'll get it. But it's not fancy, it's not sexy, it's very kind of simple stuff, right?
It is. And, I think it's important for you to point. You keep pointing to me as the expert, and that's nice of you to say, but also I'm not a clinician, right? I just happen to be a guy standing by the side of the road, watching a lot of people walk by for a lot of years and, noticing some things that those folks that are up there on the broad highway have in common. And there are some commonalities and some similarities. And then we've been producing these kinds of outcomes, en masse, right? At scale. We're doing it today. Like lots of good people are doing this today. And so I guess the great hope is that, I don't know, if the CMS folks are listening or anyone's listening and they want to start creating codes for sober living and long-term care models and get, the Fed or Medicaid, Medicare or commercial insurance, so anybody who's willing to buy and use the codes, that would be the great dream, right? That would be the great dream.
Yeah, that would be the great dream. What you're talking about is how insurance helping with sober living and some of these extended care models, right?
Without a doubt. I mean, we talked about this earlier. It's the single most efficacious penny to penny spend in our world, in our universe. So, you can spend 80 grand for inpatient treatment. You can spend $5,000. You can get detox. You can go to the South. There's just lots of ways to spend money on different pieces of the puzzle. But dollar to dollar, bang for your buck, putting people in long-term sober living, without a doubt, the greatest tool we have, the most cost-effective and produce our greatest outcomes.
Yeah, which means people get well, people have high quality lives, they're happy. And the thing about sober living, and I'm going to have Chris Edrington on here one day if I can pin him down. But in our sober living, not in the first couple of weeks, but if you're here for a little while, you can date, you can work, you can go spend the night somewhere else, you can go see your family, you can travel. It's not that bad. It's not bad. It's fun, and you've got people, and do you know what I mean? And it's like the parents, like for the parents, it's like, where your kid is. Like, we got your kid. You can call any time of day and check up on them. They're sober. We can prove that they're sober. And if they're not, you're our first call.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lifestyle choice, right? And anybody who honestly believes that going back to wherever they were, sitting on the bar stool or the back porch of the crack house or wherever it was that they were hanging out, there's just no math in the world that tells me that that's a good option and that actually things were better. I don't care how fantastic, your magical thinking is. The guys you're hanging with and the girls and the softball and the opportunity that's in front of you as a lifestyle choice, it's there's no comparing, right?
Agreed. And the thing is that we don't talk about enough is that I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to use drugs anymore. And I never thought that would happen. I didn't. And I think it happens to more people. It happens to more people than it doesn't happen to. Most people, after they're sober for a while, go, man, this is much better. I do not want to go back to the way I was.
Without a doubt, like I told me in this conversation the other day, if I had it to do over again, it was up to me, which of course it wasn't, right? I had to walk this path. I would have done anything to go to college sober, right? We laughed about the college experience on the first show and we had a riot, but I thought, man, if I was sober and I knew now, like the opportunity to wake up early, and I'm not just talking about like studying hard and getting good grades. I mean, I think people go to college for that too, but I think there was lots of opportunity to have a lot of fun at college, if I wasn't just waking up at noon and stumbling through. And those are my guys that are my favorite people in the world, are the ones that actually get sober young. I'm like, you have no idea, man. You have no idea how lucky you are to launch yourself into the 20s. I was with, you mentioned Andy Thomas. I met up with him having coffee today. So that guy's a young professional. He's married, he's building a house. He's like a grown up, and I don't know how old he is. He's probably 29. But he got sober when he was like 21, right? He was just a baby and he was stumbling around and all his friends were doing what they were doing, but he put in the hard work. And, it's all of a sudden the rocket fuel kicks in after the first year and you start to pick up speed. And I don't know anybody who gets to that point that would ever want to trade it or go back.
Yeah, I hear you. So next week we're going to have Craig Lasser on.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming he's going to say a lot of the same stuff. He's clinical director at which treatment center? Do you know?
I can't remember the name of it, but he's one of the more well-regarded clinicians in the world today. He started and run treatment centers, across the United States and around the world. And I know you've tried to hire him. A lot of folks have tried to hire him away, but I think he's busy being married and trying to live a stable lifestyle and raise a child, which, good for him. Talk about being focused on the important things. He's like, I don't need to chase the money. I'm going to try and raise a kid. And the great part is that I was having kids over the last 10 years, and he's laughing at me talking about how free he was, because he had been married to a woman that had children. And then he moved on from that relationship and started another wonderful relationship with his current wife, and they had a baby. And so now the tables are turned, and he gets to be a wonderful 51-year-old father. So we are proud of him, and we love him, and we're looking forward to seeing him.
All right. So we'll see him next week. Thanks for the conversation. No one ever asked me what I think.
Dude, that's the most important question. Well, listen, you're the best, buddy.
All right. See you later.